What's common between CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and Curtis Axel? They were all leaders of very successful factions. Shout out the social outcast. But no, in all honesty, they, alongside a handful of beasts, supermen, and gold medalists, held the most prestigious title in WWE history. The Wiseman, the Oracle, the Advocate, the only Paul who actually knows how to book a WWE show, Paul Heyman. Heyman isn't just a manager, he's the greatest asset a WWE superstar could have by their side. He could sell sand to an Arab, he could sell Brock Lesnar as a baby face, he could even sell Curtis Axel as a thing. Okay, maybe not that one, but you know what I'm trying to say. If you have Paul Heyman in your corner, if you are labeled as a Paul Heyman guy or a Paul Heyman girl, then you're officially getting skyrocketed in the main event. When Paul Heyman is by your side and when Paul Heyman speaks for you, when he advocates you, when he gives you a counsel advice, you don't just listen, the whole WWE universe listens. And yet somehow WWE has left so many potential Paul Heyman guys just hanging on the table. And today, let's fix that. This is Heal Eat with Adeen, I am Adeen, and today we're counting down 5 WWE superstars who should have been Paul Heyman guys. Let's get started. Drew McIntyre, the Unchosen One, finally chosen by Heyman. Drew McIntyre in the last 2 years have been cashed in on, cheated on, robbed by referees and backstage people, and yet somehow he always gets up. But not this time. With Paul Heyman, he could be the Unchosen One, a bitter callback to his 2011 version. He could finally have that political backing to help him backstage. You saw what happened at WrestlePalooza. You had Cody Rhodes, you had Drew McIntyre, and the ref Drew McIntyre up. If you had Paul Heyman in your corner, that would not be the case. And also, I firmly believe that, yes, Seth Rollins is a decent Paul Heyman guy, but if you wanted to have that I want to be Roman Reigns complex, Drew McIntyre in 2025 could have done that much better than Seth Rollins, and I believe he needed Paul Heyman a little bit more than him. Paul Heyman becomes the one that justifies Drew McIntyre's violence, that justifies everything that he's gone through and just balances out the scales of powers, not just physically, but politically. McIntyre isn't just chasing the system anymore. He's got the system's best manipulator on speed dial. You want to give Drew McIntyre an edge in 2025? This is how you do it. Put him on SmackDown, let him open SmackDown, let him have Paul Heyman by his side, let him try to be what Roman Reigns was for 4 or 5 years, and you have yourself an absolute main eventer in Drew McIntyre. Number 2, Nexus. Paul Heyman finishes the job. Imagine you're a little kid and you're watching Raw in 2010 and Raw opens up with a visual of Paul Heyman coming out with the Nexus. I am here to finish what I started with ECW. I'm here to do my job. I'm here to finish my story. But it's Paul Heyman this time. Imagine the promos that he would cut on Vince McMahon with Nexus by his side. Wade Barrett could be the mouthpiece of his in the ring. Justin Gabriel, Heath Slater, Skip Sheffield could all have personalities. Yes, even Skip King Sheffield could have a personality with Paul Heyman. And don't get me started on what Daniel Bryan and Paul Heyman would do together in a ring. Unless Daniel Bryan manages to choke Matt Striker out in my version of reality as well. But Nexus, Paul Heyman, all together would make so much sense. They would go from a cool debut and a bad burial all the way to main eventing every single Raw and every single pay-per-view for 2-3 years. And for f***'s sake, we won't have the core. Nobody likes you, Ezekiel Jackson. Go f*** off. Number 3, Christian, the captains of charisma. Oh, Christian, my lovely Christian. Fuck you, Vince McMahon. You guys remember what Christian was in 2011, that one more match run, that feud with Randy Orton after Edge retired, him capturing the World Heavyweight Championship, him having those 3 or 4 banger matches at Over the Limit and SummerSlam. Christian was 1000% ready for the main event scene, but Vince McMahon decided to fuck him up one more time. Now imagine this. It's one more match, but with Paul Heyman on the side. Why does Christian need Paul Heyman? Because he needs that extra edge. He needs an edge, pun intended, to push him to the main event scene. And imagine the promos that Paul Heyman would cut, that Christian was the one who was doing all the work for 20 damn years and Edge was the one getting all the credit, and not anymore. Not anymore, because Paul Heyman sees in Christian what all of us see, what Vince McMahon is too delusional and too old to see, that Christian is an absolute main event level superstar. And please don't get me started on what Randy Orton and Paul Heyman in 2012 would have done in a ring together. the promos, the aura, the unimaginable entertainment on SmackDown in 2012, it's just off the charts. Christian, Paul Heyman together, I believe they could have done something real special. Heyman and Christian could have been this bitter, smug power couple weirdly tied together, and they could have ran SmackDown for years and years to come, and it would have finally pushed Christian into a solidified main eventer. Number 4, Neville, the king of cruiserweights and the Paul of pain. Let's be honest, 2016 Neville was everything an indie darling is. A phenomenal wrestler with zero mic skills. He got the cape, he got the scowl, and he got the mean bug. Now imagine Paul Heyman hyping up Adrian Neville as a hybrid between a Red Arrow missile and Brock Lesnar. Because Neville had the wrestling skills, he had the ability, he had the mysterious charm about him, but he never could speak on the mic. And in this industry, if you can't speak on the mic, you need to go to AEW. Paul Heyman could have done so much more with Adrian Neville. He could have introduced him like he's the king of cruiserweights, but he fights like a heavyweight and he wrestles like a Paul Heyman guy. And honestly, can you even look me in my eyes through your screens and tell me that you don't want Brock Lesnar versus Adrian Neville in 2016? We all know the bangers that Brock Lesnar can put with cruiserweights. We know the Daniel Bryan match, we know the AJ Styles match, we know the Rey Mysterio match, and we also know the esteemed Ricochet match at Super Showdown or Crown Jewel. But it was a beautiful match. Brock Lesnar versus Neville could have been set up properly with Paul Heyman being a middleman between the two. Number 5, Dean Ambrose, the lunatic prophet. Ah yes, the Chernobyl disaster, the gas tragedy of Dean Ambrose's career in 2018. The fucking butt shots that Dean Ambrose received during that time. Dean Ambrose's heel run was awful. Imagine this, Dean Ambrose being the only Shield member to shake hands with the devil before the other two eventually did in the future. But on Raw, Roman Reigns announces his leukemia, Seth Rollins is having a breakdown, and Paul Heyman swoops in, shakes hands with Dean Ambrose, and tells him that you've always been the outcast, but you've always been right. He gives Dean Ambrose a god complex, like everything that this lunatic says is a prophecy. He holds his words like gospel. And maybe if WWE would have done that in 2018, then we would have never had met Jon Moxley, and we could have had Dean Ambrose and Paul Heyman together for a long time. You were always the outcast, the lunatic, but I see you, Dean, and I believe every word you say is prophecy. Heyman treats him like a preacher in a burning church, a man who doesn't want your approval. He wants your suffering. Instead of being creatively castrated in 2018, maybe, just maybe, Dean Ambrose gets elevated to a place where Jon Moxley doesn't have to be born again. And look, not everybody needs Paul Heyman. Not everybody needs a mouthpiece. There are some people, there are some superstars that are too good on the mic to be included in this list. But for these 5 superstars, he's not just going to be a mouthpiece for them. Paul Heyman isn't just your typical manager who's gonna cut promos for you. Paul Heyman, as we discussed, is the greatest asset a WWE superstar could have in his corner. Because Paul Heyman doesn't just cut promos, he elevates you into a different spectrum, into a different realm. And the next time that you see a bland heel or a bland face just flailing around in the mid-card, just ask yourself once, what if Paul Heyman was in their corner? This is Heel Heat, and I will see you guys next time.